We're made to think, and if you ask any a mainstream doctor, they'll say you don't need colon irrigation. They'll say that everything does get released, that the body knows how to get rid of things. The body is so congested. In the most perfect of circumstances, where you would have a system that all of its eliminative organs were flowing smoothly, perhaps if you had all the substances flowing smoothly and the substances going in were full of life force. Yeah. So what you would have under that those conditions is alkaline food entering alkaline tissue. So they would it would deliver what was necessary, but it wouldn't stick, and everything would flow through. Assimilation would happen, elimination would happen, probably relatively thoroughly. But that's in a body that's not defunct, that hasn't had this unfortunate degeneration over the lineage across, our ancestors basically would have been pure, which is not the case, and we would have been born perfect, and we would be eating perfect food from perfect soil, from perfect alkaline water, air, and energy. So that's not what we're dealing with. And if anyone is thinking along those lines, they're really only fooling themselves and cheating themselves, because under the conditions that we're coming into life with this kind of compromised system, and then we're taking in highly compromised substances, it's a double whammy. And in this case, two negatives don't make a positive. No, in fact, it's good for it to be a little bit cool. The cooler the water, the more the gas pressure will leave. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways to go about colon irrigation. There's a right way and a wrong way. A pressurized system that's, as you say, pushing water into the body is not ideal. Okay. The ideal method is gravity fed, so that the water is just the tank. If you're going to a professional, the tank is up about 3 feet above you. You're lying down, and it's just natural gravity that's bringing the water down and into your system. Okay. My system, the Enlightener, is also it uses gravity to offset the pressure, so that the water pressure is coming from the sink, but you're standing, so you're offsetting the pressure. So you're actually using gravity, but in a different way. So the idea is that the water gently enters. Yeah. It saturates the tissue. It saturates the waste matter, and in saturating it, it makes the waste kinetic again. Because the waste, if it's dry, it's not leaving the system. If it's dry, there's no peristalsis. Peristalsis is a natural muscular contraction that you have in the large intestine when there's matter to leave. But if the matter is dry and it's deep in the walls, which it is, and in the center, and everything's dry, there's no movement. It's like a desert. And people often think, well, I drink a lot of water. I'm going to drink 8 glasses of water, and I'm going to be fine, and I'm going to be hydrated. But that's ludicrous, because the water that you're drinking isn't getting to your intestine. And your body's also having its water content consistently leached by the dried substances that have made a home in it. So if you want to get this waste kinetic, if you want to get the peristalsis going in your large intestine, the water needs to go into your large intestine and actually be delivered where it's needed.
Was that...
Exactly. It's sitting there dry. And the problem is that if as the waste sits there, it gets drier, so the likelihood of it ever leaving decreases every day. Well, this is why people have huge intestinal problems. I mean, it used to be that people would talk just about IBS, but now IBS is sort of this umbrella condition under which we have Crohn's, diverticulitis, diverticulosis. There are countless bowel diseases, and more importantly, the removal of parts of the bowel is on the rise. Yeah. So I can't tell you the number of people who come to me asking if they can even use an Enlightener or go for colon hydrotherapy because they've had part of their intestine removed, and that's the consequence. So when people say to me, oh, it seems so unnatural to do colon irrigation, I'm thinking, but yet they'll go and have part of their colon removed, or they'll have part of their pancreas removed, or they'll have their thyroid removed. But God forbid, we put water, where the sun don't shine. That's, it's so simple, and it would prevent all of those things from being necessary. And so people really need to get their heads around what is cleanliness, and what does it mean to be hygienic. And once we care for our own internal hygiene, the way we the way most people, not everybody, the way most people care for their space, their living spaces, and the things that they care about taking care of. For example, I'll always like to ask people what does a great musician always do with their instrument, no matter what? Number one, they're going to keep it clean, and number two, they're going to make sure it's well tuned. And if it's not clean, there's no way it's going to be well tuned. But those two things are the fundamental things that anyone who is a real musician is going to do, whether they're an amateur and they just love to play their instrument, or they're playing on Carnegie Hall. So we are if you think about traditional Chinese medicine, they understood that the body was just strings, meridians and nadis. Also with Ayurveda. And this understanding that these strings, these threads of life are what actually make us up. And behind the world of form, behind what we find tangible, is this energetic blueprint that we are, which is also threads. It's a network. And so if there's junk on these strings, if you had a harp and you have, I give this analogy all the time, if there's something on the harp strings, if there's crud on the harp strings, okay, you're going to try and pluck that string, and it's not going to make a sound. No. So if we're strings, if we're a string instrument, and there's all this crud on our proverbial heartstrings too, yes, but on our harp strings, then we're going to be feel, what's the word? What's the word now? Not a nerd, not numbed. I suppose not numbed, but we're not going to have the zing. We're not going to be able to play. Yeah. Our instrument is not going to play. So what most people have is a lot of crud on their harp strings, and they're walking around feeling really drab. They're dragging their feet through life. And then they think, well, why don't I have energy? What can I put into my body to give me energy? It's the wrong approach. The energy I'm lacking is due to the fact that my body's filled with obstruction. Let me remove the obstruction, and I'll have tons of energy. And I don't need to take anything in from the outside, but I need to remove what's compromising my instrument from within. So what people typically do is they'll reach for stimulants. So what's important to understand is that anything that's stimulant, the important thing to understand is that anything that is stimulative, is a stimulant, is also acidic, which means it's also addictive. The degree to which something is acidic is the degree to which it's going to be addictive, and all addictive stimulants are acidic. So if you can think addictive, stimulant, acidic, it's like the trio. And so when people are always reaching, and I call those things false fire. They're not real energy. They're masquerading as energy. They give you a kick. They give you the stimulation. But what we want to have is a natural, inherent, high vibration kind of energy. And that comes. What's so amazing about that is that when we release the obstruction, then not only is our blueprint of our strings, our structure, our instrument, and all of the threads and strings within it, not only is that now pulsating with life force and zinging, humming, has that visceral frequency, that vibration. We should all, the fact that we don't experience this is so sad. I mean, I experienced it, but the fact that everyone doesn't get to experience this is really sad, because it makes you inexplicably happy, inexplicably generous, inexplicably loving. It's just, you just are zinging through the world, and it's, you're easy to be around, you have so much to give. But what's so magical is that when that happens, you're connected with the whole network of life. It's not just like you're in an isolation chamber and you're feeling better. That would be impossible, because where's the energy coming from? The energy isn't originating here. There's a heart of the universe, and that's zinging. And when you're open and able to receive it, it enters you, and then you have a central point of your own, the own center of your own universe, your core. Yeah. The word court, order in the court. The court is the cœur in French, the cœur, the center. So there is this center point from which our energy radiates out and conducts from. But then there's worlds within worlds. So there's this world within the bigger sphere, and it goes and it goes and goes endlessly. But the beauty of it is, the second we we reach that kind of that requisite level of removal of obstruction, the second where our instrument is attuned enough, clean enough, it will be able to take in a flood of energy from the great all in all that we move and live and have our breathing within.